It all starts by introducing us to a girl named Kitoko Igualada, but we will just call her Kodo. Kodo is sitting outside on a hospital bench, and then she goes over to talk to a boy named Kuro, who is our main protagonist. She greets him, but the boy is confused since he doesn't know who she is. She then goes on to say, "How can't you remember the girl who saved your own life?" But he replies saying he can't remember ever being in danger that bad for someone to need to save his life. However, Kodo tells him that 2 years ago, at this hospital, he was walking through the corridors and some children passed by and accidentally pushed him. But before he fell down, Kodo was there to save him and grabbed him before he fell. Kuro and his girlfriend Saki thanked her that day, and he promised that he will always remember her. And at that moment, it was love at first sight for Kodo. Kodo was so intrigued at the sight of Kuro, and she even refers to him as a goat-like figure with 2 demon horns, but to everyone else he looks like a normal boy. We now go back to the present, and Kuro tells her he now remembers her, and then apologizes and tells her he's not good at remembering girls' faces, especially as she's wearing a new hat. She then sits down beside him and reintroduces herself to make sure he will never forget her ever again. Kodo then proposes that they should start dating because she knew his relationship with his ex-girlfriend Saki had ended, and he was single, but she wants him to tell her the reason why they broke up. And that's when he tells her that one night while they were both walking past a river, a monster appeared, so he ran away leaving only his girlfriend, and this is the reason they broke up. But Kodo tells him this is a lie, and what really happened was the monster was actually the one who was afraid of Kuro, and his girlfriend was also now scared of him because she saw how frightened the monster was of Kuro, and it made her question who he really was. Kodo then goes on to explain that all the monsters know his true identity and find him terrifying from everyone else. So then Kuro asks Kodo who she really was, then she tells him she's the goddess of wisdom for all mythical creatures, monsters and spirits known as youkai. But Kuro doesn't believe her, so she convinces him by telling him to find the newspapers from 6 years ago, which tells the story of a girl who went missing but was later found without an eye and a leg. Kodo then leaves and gets on the bus to go home, and this is when she is visited by one of the spirit creatures who asks her for help and explains that there is a demon monster lurking in the library. But she tells him that she will take care of it tomorrow because she's following Kuro. The next day we see that Kuro found the newspaper about Kodo and learns about what happened. Kodo asks him if his investigation is enough proof for him to believe her, but he says that this still doesn't prove she's a goddess of wisdom. And just at that moment, a human transforms into a fox right in front of him and tells Kodo that the library has been broken into by the monster and asks her for help. The fox takes one look at Kuro and is frightened out of his mind just by simply looking at him. After seeing the fox transform, he tells her that he now believes her story, and then they both head over to the library. When they arrive at the library, she tries talking with the monster, but it ignores her command and tries to attack her. Since Kuro can't control it either, they then try to escape. But after running for a while, he turns around and stands in front of the monster, and it ate his whole arm. Kodo gets scared, but we see that Kuro is immortal and has body regeneration, and the monster dies after eating Kuro's flesh. Kodo is shocked by this and starts asking Kuro to reveal who he really is. And then Kuro says, "You can just ask your mythical creatures who I am." He also tells her that when he was younger he ate 2 kinds of demon meat, which gave him immortal powers. The next day, Kuro goes to visit his cousin at the hospital, and there he sees Kodo. They talk about what happened in the library yesterday, and she asked him about his arm. He tells her that he's fine, and says when he was younger one of the meats he ate was from a mermaid, and that's why he has full body regeneration. But Kodo says that by eating mermaid meat you also inherit eternal youth. However, he doesn't look like a boy anymore, and he says that it could be because of the other meat he ate that is affecting the eternal youth power. She asks him what the other meat was, but he doesn't give her an answer. Right after, Kodo then invites Kuro to come and visit one of the mythical creatures, which is a giant serpent, because she heard that it has some questions that only she could help him with. But Kuro rejects going with her and tells her that he has better things to do, so she goes alone to talk with the giant serpent. The snake tells her that all the humans are forgetting about him as he hasn't received any prayers from humans in many years, and that humans no longer look up to him as a god of water. After that, he notices that Kodo is upset, so the snake asks her what's wrong, and Kodo replies that she was upset because her boyfriend Kuro didn't accompany her. She apologizes and asks the snake why he wanted her help, and this is when it tells her that a few days ago a woman threw a corpse into the lake. The woman in question is called Tanio, and the corpse was identified as a man called Yoshihara Hiru, who was Tanio's ex-boyfriend's boss. Tanio was later arrested and testified to the police that she threw the corpse into the lake because she heard about the snake that likes to eat humans and she gave it as an offering. But that was actually a lie, because the snake watched her throw it into the lake, and when she threw it in, she whispered saying, "I really hope someone finds you." He also noticed that she never attached anything heavy to the body to weigh it down, so she definitely wanted it to be found. And that's why he's asking Kodo for help, as he wants an explanation from the goddess of wisdom. She tries helping the snake by giving him several explanations as to why this occurred. But each reason she gives the snake leads to an empty plot. So she gives him one more reason as to why she did this, and she explains to the snake that it all started with her ex-boyfriend Machai, who died in the arms of another woman, and this woman was his co-worker. After Machai died, it was told that while he was working for Hiru, he played around with some numbers and embezzled a large sum of money to his account. He knew the boss would find out and he had nowhere to hide the money, and him and his co-worker were the only two people who knew about it, so they both agreed to die together in the bathtub. At the time this happened, Tanyo was carrying his baby, and she thought she was carrying the baby of the man who just betrayed her. Later on she ended up having a miscarriage, so she dumped the unborn baby in the river out of spite. Tanyo moved on with her life, and got out of the city, and now lives alone in the suburbs. Years go by, and Hiru visits her house and confesses to her that he was actually the one who embezzled the money, and that Machai and his co-worker were the only two people who knew about it and threatened to make it public, so he killed them both. After hearing his confession, she got her revenge on the boss, and then dumped his body in the river, hoping that the police would search the entire river, in the hopes that they would find her unborn baby she had with Machai. That's why she whispered saying she really hopes someone finds it. After explaining to the snake what happened, she sees Kuro, who was hiding this whole time, and listening in on the conversation. Kodo then leaves with Kuro, and Kodo tells Kuro that everything she just told the snake was a lie, because she sent one of her spirits to check on Tanyo at the time she was being detained. And the spirit heard her say the truth, and the real reason she did it was to see the snake eat the corpse. 2 years later, we see that Kuro's ex-girlfriend Saki is now a police officer. Saki and her partner discuss a recent case about a guy who crashed into the river while he was driving. Right after the incident, the guy told Saki he was distracted by a beautiful ghost. He describes her as a faceless lady with 2 big eyes, but in the police report, she wrote down that it was a puppy in the road which caused him to crash into the river. Her partner argues with her and says it's best to use the right description, but Saki told him they shouldn't mention the word ghost in their reports as it will only cause problems. Saki told her partner that this was the work of a ghost called the Steel Lady, to which he replies saying he's heard many similar cases of the Steel Lady, but still can't bring himself to believe that ghosts are actually real. Before her partner leaves, she tells him that these spirits and yokai do exist in their world, and that her own ex-boyfriend Kuro was also like these monsters, but in a human form, and that's why she broke up with him. She then starts to investigate where the incident took place, and there she meets Kodo, who happens to fall on top of her. Kodo was facing off with the Steel Lady, and this is when Saki has had enough of hearing from the Steel Lady, and wanted to defeat her right now. So she runs up to her and tries to fight the lady, but her arm went straight through her body. The Steel Lady then threw a metal beam at her and knocked her down. Kodo helps her and makes contact with the Steel Lady, and shortly after the ghost ran away. Saki asks Kodo why she was able to hit the ghost but she wasn't, and then she goes on to explain that she's not like other humans. Kodo explains to Saki that she needs to forget about everything that just happened and not to get the police involved as it will cause many problems. Then Saki pulls out her badge and tells her she is an officer, then offers to bring her back to the station for further questions and offers to treat her wounds she got from the fight. But after seeing her badge, she read the name and realized who it was, and was shocked that she just met Kuro's ex-girlfriend. She begins to express that if she knew who she was from the start, she wouldn't have saved her from the Steel Lady. Then Saki gets angry with her for being rude. They head over to Saki's apartment and Kodo tells her that her and Kuro are now dating and are happily in love. She shows Saki photos of them together, but after seeing the photos, she tells her that they shouldn't be together as he looks miserable and unhappy in all the photos. Kodo disagrees, but Saki says she would know since she was the one who dated him for over 4 years. Saki asks Kodo why Kuro wasn't there when she was facing off with the Steel Lady, and Kodo replies saying he disappeared around a week ago, and the last thing he did was text her saying to not go looking for him. Kodo leaves, and uses a spirit in the form of a giant skeleton for transportation. Saki then starts to investigate more about the Steel Lady and who she was before she died. She found out the girl's real name is actually Karin Nanase. She was 18 at the time and wasn't doing too well in life, until one day, she got an important role as a leading actress and became a famous idol and was worshipped by many people that followed her. She continues searching and finds a website that talks about the idol. It is a fan wiki page, and there it tells her everything she needs to know about Nanase. She clicks on the wiki, and it explains the death of her father, Apparently her father died from an accident by falling down the stairs. But then there were rumors that Nanase was the one who killed her father, since he hated her for becoming famous and embarrassing his family. Because of this rumor, Nanase had to temporarily withdraw from acting. A few days later, Nanase died of steel beams falling on top of her at a construction site. Koto is also now searching for a way to defeat the Steel Lady, because all of her spirits and little creatures are too afraid of her, and since she's their goddess, she feels like she has to be the one to stop her. Later, Koto visits a restaurant and is greeted by a spirit that tells her the Steel Lady had appeared. She arrives at the location and saw her fighting someone, and it was Kuro. Saki also arrives and the two of them are watching Kuro fight the Steel Lady. Kuro is losing the fight and takes a huge hit from the metal beam which kills Kuro. But he revives himself and came back to life and suddenly was able to predict all her attacks. Saki doesn't understand how he was able to do this, so Koto explains that the other meat he ate when he was younger was from the beast called Kyuden. Normally no one else survives after eating this meat, and his grandmother was the one who fed him both the mermaid meat. And after that his final test was to eat the meat of the Kyuden beast. After eating the Kyuden, he gained the ability to see into the future. However, he can only use this power when he dies, so when the Steel Lady kills him, he uses this power to see into the future, and when he comes back to life, he can predict all her moves. We return back to the fight and Kuro breaks her neck, but apparently this didn't hurt her because she fixes herself and then runs away. Then Kuro sees them both watching him, and they all decide to meet in Saki's apartment. They all talk about what they can do to defeat the Steel Lady. And that's when Koto explains that she is a different type of ghost from the rest of the yokai spirits because she was created by the imaginations of humans who idolized her. These people gave it a name and an appearance, so it ended up becoming real. Saki asks Koto how so many people were able to think of the same image in order to bring her to life, and she tells her it was because of the wiki page her fans created. So to stop her, they have to rewrite the story of the Steel Lady and make it interesting enough so everyone stops believing the Steel Lady is a real ghost. And if they can do this, all the believers of the Steel Lady will change their minds and she will cease to exist. To proceed with this plan, Koto needs more information and asks Saki for her investigation files. The files have all the necessary information about Karin Nanase. They go to the place of the incident, and with the help of a ghost they verify that she was indeed crushed by the metal beams. However, she never actually moved out of the way, almost like she wanted to be crushed. They talk to the ghost, and they all agree that they should come up with a fake narrative to replace the old one, and finally get rid of the Steel Lady. To confirm the story will be a success, they can use Kuro's power to see into alternate futures, and he can see the future of where the Lady Nanase will no longer exist. That night, we also see that Saki's partner was a victim of the Steel Lady. With the news of this spreading, Koto's chances of defeating the Steel Lady decrease, so she starts thinking fast to come up with a story to defeat the Steel Lady once and for all. After a few hours, she has 4 solutions to be able to get rid of the Steel Lady. But this leaves her very tired and she wants to sleep, so Saki and Kuro head out to get some food. She asks Kuro why he's dating Koto since she's not his type, and she also tells him that she knows the truth, that he is in love with his cousin Rika, who has been in the hospital for over 3 years. And this is who Kuro regularly visits. They go to meet his cousin, but when they meet her, Saki was frightened just like the time she broke up with Kuro. Kuro explains to Saki that even though she's sick, she won't die because she has the same powers as him, and she also ate both of the demon meats. After Koto wakes up, she talks with Saki, who asks her if she knew about Rika having the same power as Kuro. She tells Saki that she knew about this and they start piecing together who she really is. Koto explains that after they discharged her from the hospital, she stayed with them for a few weeks. At first they didn't get along, but over time they became friends. While she was staying there, she noticed that Rika was always on the computer and also liked to create art. But one day, she suddenly left. She never realized up until now that she was the one who created the page of the Steel Lady, as she has the same painting style as the image shown on the wiki. But Koto could never imagine that she was the one behind this. She then realized that Kuro already knew about Rika being the creator of the Steel Lady, and that's why he was gone for over a week, because he went out to go find her, and that's why he told Koto not to go looking for him. This is why it's been so hard to defeat the Steel Lady, because Rika has been using her power to see the future, and she always finds the one where people believe in the Steel Lady the most. But each time she uses the power, she dies and comes back to life, making her body frail, as she's done this hundreds of times to keep the ghost alive. A yokai spirit visits Koto and told her she found the Steel Lady, and Koto says this will be the final night to defeat her. They will need Kuro to fight the Steel Lady while Saki and Koto write fake stories on the wiki page to try and convince the masses to stop believing in her, so she gets weaker and finally disappears. Rika is seen using her power, where she chooses a future where the Steel Lady will still exist, and Kuro is trying to do the opposite. Kodo tries to convince people on the site that the ghost isn't real, and that it's an actual person dressing up as the Steel Lady in order to get away with committing crime, because they know the police investigations will never lead toward the real culprit. However, she fails to convince the people on her theories, and they always contradict her arguments. She tries telling them many other reasons as to why she doesn't exist but fails. So this leads to her fourth and final story, where she tells the wiki that Karin Nanase is actually still alive, and she wanted to find a way to get out of the spotlight due to all of the rumors about her killing her father, which led to her being abandoned by the rest of her family and her sister, and she wanted a fresh start. She does this by finding a look-alike of herself, and when she met her, they started talking and became friends. One day, she asked her for a favor, which was to become a decoy and help her direct the paparazzi away from the location. She agrees to help Nanase and begins to dye her hair and wear Nanase's clothes. She tells her to run into the construction site and she will meet her there later. She then hit her unconscious, and right after crushed her face with the steel beam so she couldn't be fully identified. This way Nanase could pretend to be her instead and live a normal life. But some of the users start asking what was the point of Steel Lady Nanase if the real Nanase was actually alive. And then other users point out that the real Nanase might be the one who created her and made the wiki herself in order to make the world believe she was really dead. Thanks to this, everyone started to believe that Nanase was actually still alive, and she created the website herself in order to hide the fact that she was alive, and this is when Kuro finally defeats the ghost, and she disappears from existence. Their final step is to find Kuro's cousin and defeat her. But I guess that will happen in Season 2 of Spectre. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on another video. Until next time guys, take care.